Hi, my name's Jason and this is,
I'm Leah.
we're from Elevated Experience Camping. We're going to do today a video on some of Leah's favorite things, mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
So we're going to start off with a quote.
One of my favorites about mushrooms is if we could only identify true love from false love as we identify mushrooms from toadstools.
Oh, that's cute. And I have the fun fact for today. So today's fun fact is that that portobello mushrooms have more or equal to potassium as a banana.
Which I did not know that.
See, you learn something every day.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask Leah some questions here. We're going to get going with this. So we're going to start off with what is your profession and why do you like it?
Well, other than being here, which I love, my other job is as a herbalist here in Alberta, and which is a lifelong passion of mine. That which is the reason why I choose to be a herbalist.
Oh. And what does a herbalist do?
We make plant-based medicine. We use some of the herbs and the weeds that we find around here and make remedies out of them.
Perfect.
Yeah. And
how long have you been doing that for?
I started going to school in 2015. Have been kind of playing around with plants for most of my life, though.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we are going to start with some questions here. And we're going to talk about Leah's favorite things, which is mushrooms and fungi, like this guy. All right. So what kind of mushrooms are down here at Elevated Experience Camping?
Well, some of the really common ones that we have growing down here that are, as opposed to tree mushrooms, like polypores, we'll say we have some honey mushrooms, which we're picking right now. We've got oyster mushrooms, a couple of different kinds of morel mushrooms. We've got saffron milk caps. And then, like I said, we got a bunch of polypore mushrooms that grow down around here,
Puffballs,
puffballs. Long list.
what do they look like?
They look like a little puffy white ball.
And those are edible?
They are.
Wow. Are all mushrooms edible down here in Drayton Valley or Elevated Experience Camping? Sorry.
Definitely not.
I see.
Definitely not all edible. Some of them edible after certain stages of preparation, and some of them not necessarily edible, just because they're not palatable, but useful as medicine.
So you can, just because they're not edible, it doesn't mean you can't use them for medicine.
Right.
Is there a way to tell a non-edible from an edible mushroom?
There are. Individual identification of the mushroom itself is always the best and the safest route to go. There isn't any sort of like check the box identifier that would say that one mushroom is edible and one is not. It's definitely all about making sure you've done your proper identification. And
how would you go about doing that?
So there's a few different indicators that we can use to identify a mushroom. Again, visually, that's a big one. Some of them are different enough that we can tell just by looking at them what they are. One of those like morel mushrooms. Oftentimes people can tell a morel just by looking at it, but there are poisonous lookalikes. So it's always really, it's important that we use those identifiers across what kind of trees are growing in the area. A spore print is always a really good idea. The smell is important for some kinds of mushrooms. Appearance. There's a number of different identifiers that we can use for sure.
And then you said spore print. So what is a spore print?
Okay, so a spore print is what we use. So when we take that stem off of the bottom of a mushroom and you place that down on a piece of paper and just let it sit, cap down for overnight, a couple of hours, and when you lift it off, there should be a print that matches the shape of those gills that's on the underside. And the color of those gills those spores, pardon me, is often a really good, whether they're white, brown, yellow, if they have a pink hue. Any one of those things can tell us what type of mushroom it may be.
So if you do a spore print and say it came out yellow, does that necessarily make it a poisonous mushroom, or is it just...
Nope, it just depends really on the type of mushroom.
And Leah, if a mushroom, why do mushrooms grow back in the same place all the time?
That's a really great question, Jason. I try to explain it and think of it like an apple tree. So when an apple tree produces apples, we pick that fruit, and then in the next spring, blossoms will grow and an apple will grow from that blossom. If you think of the apple tree being underground and the apple growing out of the ground on top of the dirt, that's exactly kind of how a mushroom grows, except instead of being an apple tree, we have something underground called mycelium. And the mushroom grows from that mycelium. The mushroom is the fruiting body of the organism that's underground. And another fun fact for the day, one of the largest living organism on our entire globe is mycelium.
Oh, is it?
It is. Yep.
Oh. Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
It can stretch for hundreds of square kilometers.
Serious?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know.
There's some debate, I think, right now whether or not that organism is in Oregon or Russia, I believe.
Really?
Yes. Yep.
Crazy. And what are some of your favorite mushrooms?
To eat, one of my favorite that we harvest in the wild is the saffron milkcap. That's a family favorite of mine. We've been picking those in my family since as long as I can remember, and much before that. Medicinally, I like to pick, there's a mushroom that grows here in Alberta and right here in Drayton Valley as well, called a Ganoderma applanatum. It's part of the reishi family. That's another favorite of mine as well.
And what does as medicinal, what does that one do?
Oh my gosh, there's a very, very long list. That one's, like I say, it's part of the reishi family, so we could sit here for quite some time and talk about all the medicinal benefits of the Ganoderma applanatum polypores.
And the saffron milkcap?
Is delicious.
And how do you prepare it?
Generally, I just at first I give them a quick parboil, and then I fry them with some onion and a little bit of bacon if we have it, and serve it as a side with maybe some deer steak or, elk sausage, something like that.
And this is a question, everybody debates it. Do you wash your mushrooms or do you just brush them off?
I brush them off. I cut them open, check for worms, and that's about the extent of it.
You can get worms in your mushroom?
Absolutely.
And are like worms like in apple kind of worms, or is it just yeah
and honestly, I don't think any of these worms would really hurt you too much. It's just a little bit of a gross factor.
Extra protein?
A little bit extra protein in your diet.
Beautiful. Hey Leah, so what's the difference between a mushroom and a fungi?
A mushroom is the part that we see that comes up out of the ground, and the fungi is
this guy.
Is this guy. Also the organism as a whole, that the mycelium and the mushroom itself all as one kind of bundle is classified as fungi.
So the whole package deal is the fungi.
Absolutely.
But the mushroom is just the stuff, the apple on top.
We call it the fruiting body.
Fruiting body.
Yep.
Hey Leah, and what can you grow mushrooms indoors and that you still grow on the outdoors, or is it?
Well, yeah, for sure. It's actually becoming a really, really common thing nowadays where people can buy kits where you can, whether you buy them online or there's certain distributors right here in Alberta that you can get them from, and they set you up with a really, really easy to follow, easy to maintain setup kind of little product package that you get, and you can grow all kinds of different mushrooms inside. You can the possibilities are endless. There's different colors of oyster mushrooms that you can grow. You can grow shiitake and so many.
And you have a greenhouse. Do you currently grow mushrooms in there?
I do have mushrooms growing at home. They are not in my greenhouse. They are in my basement where it's cool and kind of dark.
Is so what are the key requisites for growing a
again,
mushroom?
You want to check with the instructions that come with whatever you're trying to cultivate, but mushrooms, they like moisture, they like cool, they like shady places. So it's kind of, you want to sort of mimic those conditions as best as possible, and basements seem to be sort of the go-to. Yeah.
Awesome. Maybe I'll have to check my basement for some mushrooms.
Yeah, hopefully ones you planned on growing and not ones that are there by accident.
Here in Elevated Experience Camping, have you seen some of these saffron milk caps, and
yep,
where, like, do they grow by a tree, or is it
So actually the saffron melt caps that I found down here, we actually found them right in the middle of a very gravelly sort of patch of land underneath some pine trees, which, I mean, doesn't necessarily check the boxes as you would in a book, but that's the beauty part about mushrooms, is that lots of times you find them in the strangest places.
Perfect. And to finish this video off, how about giving us something to take away to ponder about mushrooms and some interesting facts about them?
Well, I think the most important thing is not being afraid of picking wild mushrooms, because that's oftentimes I find what deters people from going out and looking for them, is that they are afraid that they're going to make themselves sick. And while there definitely is that possibility, if you keep your expectations on the smaller side, focus on 1 or 2 mushrooms at first that you can be comfortable with, and then progressing from there, that's going to be the most safe way, in my opinion, to get that education and that knowledge in your brain, so that you know what you're looking at and you know what you're looking for, and you know the tools to identify and make sure that what you've got is what you actually have.
And I forgot to ask also about morel mushrooms.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you don't cook them, what happens?
Well, that's the thing, is that's a really important point that you're making, Jason, because it's important to prepare your mushrooms properly. Sometimes if you don't cook them, you can end up with some really serious gastrointestinal issues or worse, you know, but hopefully that's where we draw the line, is that a bit of an upset stomach is where it's at.
Beautiful. Well, my name's Jason.
And I'm Leah.
And we hope you've enjoyed this little sneak into Leah's life about being a herbalist and her fun passions about mushrooms.
For sure. Thanks, everybody.